understand, okay, how is our body functioning? Oops. And welcome everybody as you come in. As I reminded everybody at the beginning, please put your questions in the chat. I'll get to them as soon as I can, probably towards the end of our call. But I'm thrilled to have you all here. And I hope you're not flooding like some of us in North Carolina are. But anyway, so the lungs are the first, like, sort of one of the first parts of our body that takes in information. And our lungs can actually offer a lot of evidence about our organs, and it is an organ, obviously, and how our liver is functioning. Of course, we take in oxygen here, really important. We take in more than that too, but oxygen, we also let stuff out. And that's something that we should keep in mind too. One of the reasons I wanted to mention lungs is that a lot of times people come to me with a breathing issue. You know, this time of year, allergies are a huge issue. It could be more asthmatic symptoms, you know, it just depends. But our lungs, when they're not functioning appropriately, are a really good indicator that something is off with our digestion. And our digestion, as you'll learn today, it's really all culminates with our liver. But of course, we have our stomach as a part of that. And we want our stomach to be active and have everything it needs, the enzymes and everything that it needs, the digestive juices, to really break down our food effectively. And that's a huge piece going into the liver. Obviously, then the intestines come after the stomach. Super long. We start hearing things about, you know, leaky gut. And that's like I think, key phrase I keep hearing right now, IBS, all of these issues, which we think, oh, I just need to deal with my intestines. A lot of times the root is a little bit further down in our digestive tract. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but our intestines are massive, right? And we really need to consider those. Skin maybe should have come first, but skin is actually the largest organ on our body. And we tend to forget about it because we think of it more as a barrier and a shield, but it really is a sponge. And so while it does shield out some things, it actually is an absorber of a lot of things like vitamin D, for example. It's the main way that we take in vitamin D, process vitamin D in a way that our body then can use. So, you know, if you're taking a vitamin D supplement, that can be great, but it actually isn't always as absorbable as just going out into the sun and getting that vitamin D directly from the source. And then, of course, it does help us with some toxin kind of processing, but it actually, when we start to see rashes and things, it can be a really good indicator that something is off in terms of our digestion. And again, going down to that root of really what stems from, a lot of it stems from the liver. So liver, I'm really excited to kind of get to know it a little bit better and to help you get to know it a little bit better. But it is a large, meaty organ that removes toxins from the body's blood supply and maintains healthy blood sugar levels even. This is something I kind of knew, but didn't know completely. It produces bile, which is huge. It's very, very important. And a lot of people suffer from like a lack of bile production. Bile is massively important when it comes to our digestion and plays a big role in how we break down things. Liver also is, it's the way that our body mitigates any kind of chemical and we'll talk more about that. Any kind of thing that comes in, whether it's vitamins and minerals that are natural, whether they're unnatural vitamins and minerals, there's a lot of synthetic options on the market, whether it's medications, it could be chemicals. We'll talk more about some of those things that come in, but it will actually a lot of times store or tell our body where to store these things if it can't process. One really fascinating thing I think about the liver, and this just made me really excited. I love the word regeneration because it implicates that there's this ability for us to heal our earth. You know, Drew and I, we farm in a regenerative way, trying to restore the topsoil effectively. And the topsoil really is kind of like our liver, right? It has the place where nutrients are stored and released as the earth needs it, as things need to use energy. Sugar also, glucose is we take in carbs or sugar, and it's glucose, and then it gets turned into glycogen, it's stored in the liver, and then it's released back into the body as we need that energy. And of course, if we have too much or too little, it really throws off all of those things, the insulin response. I've been learning a lot about leptin. There's a lot of different hormonal releases that all come back to liver function. But so back to that word regeneration, the liver is the only organ that when it's injured, instead of creating scar tissue, which is traditionally what other organs will do when they've been punctured or injured or severed or what have you, this organ actually has the ability to regenerate, and up to 50% regeneration in a 30-day period, which that to me was like, oh my goodness, this is the biggest miracle ever. And the truth of that is because we couldn't live without our liver. We really could not. And that's I think just goes to show that there's a lot of hope around dealing with our livers. We maybe weren't taking as good a care of it as we should have, but there's still an opportunity to take steps to do that. And our liver is fully capable of taking what we give to nourish it and turning it into healing. So it's actually really exciting. And then after the liver comes the kidneys. The kidneys are two bean-shaped organs, each about the size of a fist, and their job is to cleanse the body of toxins and transform waste into urine. Healthy kidneys filter out about a half a cup of blood every minute. That's fascinating, right? So, all right, so we're going to come back here now to liver function. Liver function is critical for over 500 vital functions. The bile production, like we mentioned, which is huge for digestion, storing energy, stockpiling vitamins and minerals, eliminating toxins, processing emotions like anger. We don't always think about our body and how we store emotions. And I think this is something that's kind of a newer, we're moving into an age where we're not going to shelf our emotions anymore. We're going to bring those to the table. We're going to talk about what they're doing for us and our health. And I don't know. I feel like Chinese medicine talks about this a lot, and I need to do some digging there. But what my personal kind of anecdotal experience is, each emotion sort of goes to a different part of the body and internalizes in different organs. And I think our different organs have different ways of processing. If you think about, when you're nervous and anxious, where does that go? For me, it's to my stomach. I think most people, it goes to the stomachs, right? And for anger, it really goes to the liver. And the liver is really known to kind of be affiliated when your liver is acting up. It a lot of times goes back to kind of anger management problems and maybe trying to release some of the anger that might be pent up at a very cellular, maybe not measurable way, but it's there. It's in those cells. It does clean us. It's very important. If we want to detoxify our bodies at all, our liver needs to be supported, because it is the way by which we eliminate the bad guys, the bad things. And so we really need to up how we support it. We are by far exposed to more toxins and chemicals than we ever have been before in the face of like all human history. And so it's really important that we think about that. Like, no, we can't change it, unfortunately. I mean, we can do our little bit, and we'll talk about ways that we can do that and mitigate it. But ultimately, we can't leave the environment that we're in. And it comes down to more than just chemicals. But cleaning our bodies out is really important, and supporting the livers and doing that is really important. Producing blood, it also creates the proteins that are responsible for clotting, and also amino acid production. This is just a list of like a short list of things that the liver does. And then this is kind of an extensive list of ways that you might be able to identify whether or not your liver is actually sluggish. So if you are suffering from any of these symptoms, then your liver is likely not behaving in its optimal way. I'm actually going to read through a list of symptoms that I think are, it's extensive, but I think it's going to be helpful. So first of all, put your right hand over the end of your right rib cage, just below the diaphragm. And this is right where your liver is. So I think it's, first of all, do we even know our own anatomy? I think, we leave high school and we might have taken an anatomy class, but do we really remember and retain that information? I don't think I did. So I think I would put it back here. I think it's right in there. It's pretty big. But let's read through some of these. So with regards to like the cholesterol and level of fat, things like LDLs and HDLs, these are balanced totally in ratio to how healthy the liver is. And when those numbers are out of whack, the liver needs to be looked at. An elevation in triglycerides. This is something that a lot of people are dealing with, and it leads to weight gain, it leads to heart disease, and it ultimately stems a lot of the time, if not all the time, from liver function. And I don't think you can have these issues if your liver is fully healthy. So one way or the other, there is a connection there. Digestive problems like bloating, constipation, and inability to digest fatty foods. So if you've ever eaten like within reason too, because we'll talk about specific fatty foods that are not so good, but fatty foods that really make you feel indigestion and maybe even a loss of appetite. If you feel like you're just not even that hungry, that can be a problem with your liver. And this is largely to do because your liver's not making as much bile, and it can be a real issue. Skin-related allergies like rashes, psoriasis, eczema, boils, acne, and moles even, and itching a lot of times goes back to the liver and the efficiency of the body's immune system. Let's see, fluctuation in blood sugar levels. So a sluggish liver fails to regulate these levels. So it might look like a loss of appetite, weakness, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, low energy levels, fever, even abdominal pain. And then when we're talking about hormonal balance, it might look like sleep or mental disturbances, confusion, depression, sensitivity to other medicines, heavy or clotted menstruation for women, or irregular periods, or even things like fibroids in the breast or the uterus, hot flashes, cysts, mood swings, and other menopausal, or what I'm hearing this phrase a lot because all my friends are in this range, I think, perimenopausal women, right? So a lot of those go to, and right, we get to a certain age and our liver has done what it can do with us for so long. And if we haven't done what we need to do to support it, that it starts to feel taxed, right? And it starts to feel sluggish, and we start to, at the similar ages, all start to experience these things. And not that those will erase, but we can lessen them, and we can slow that process. So other symptoms might be an intolerance to alcohol or coffee, swollen feet. So one thing that I personally noticed, a lot of the things on this list, but one other thing, so coffee, I noticed that if I have a second cup of coffee, it makes me super jittery. I used to be able to drink one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and now I don't because it was too much. A yellowing of the eyes, dark urine and stool, bad breath even, easy bruising, swollen feet, swollen abdomen, sensitivity to chemicals in paints, and getting headaches and things, body odor even. So you feel like you're extra stinky. This is a sign that your liver is not functioning at its optimal. I am going to just make sure everybody's muted because I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I think I can do that real quick. Maybe not. If you notice that your sound is on, you just double check for me. Thank you very much. Sounds like it went off. I'm thrilled that you're all here. Okay, so why? Why are we in this state? What is it that's coming against us? And here is really the list. And I'd say it's the short list, but I feel like it's pretty extensive. We have toxic exposure that we're dealing with, drugs, chemicals. We have radiation and EMF, electrical frequencies that we've never had before. And this is all stuff that our body has to figure out how to deal with. And our liver is the guide. Our liver is the one that really helps us process all of this. Anxiety. I would say our society is like currently in a high state of anxiety all the time. It's like always at the worst case scenario, and very rarely do we ever get to the point where we feel like, oh, all is well, right? We keep saying, oh, maybe after this election, or maybe after January, or maybe, you know, like, who knows, maybe after the next election, who knows? There's just so much coming at us. And in a way that's never been true before. We've never had so much access to information coming at us in every direction. You know, we are now taking in the news from across the globe, you know, wars in other places, and trying to understand all of these things at one time. It's just not natural for us. You know, we should be much more like local centric in terms of how we were designed, where we came from, right? We weren't designed to have phones. We weren't designed to have internet. We were designed to live in the very environment in which we exist. And that's not what we do. We very rarely even participate in that anymore. Finding time to go outside and enjoy it has become a chore. And, you know, so there's just all of these different layers to why is it that we're struggling. Medications, we've never been more medicated. Synthetic medications, especially, you know, not, they are what they are and they serve their purpose, but our liver is the one who makes sure those medications don't kill us. It really is the processing system by which it makes all of the medications that people take even work, and then it protects us from the parts of those medications that are dangerous. Alcohol is a major taxer of the liver. And then the lack of liver-loving foods. So traditional foods would include foods that are specifically really, really good for the liver and refortify the liver on a regular basis. And I'm going to go through each of these specifically. So just to help give you ideas and tools to use. So let's go ahead with we're going to go back to toxic exposure and talk about things that we can do to mitigate this toxic exposure. So first of all, reducing that toxic exposure as much as we can. You know, we live in a world where we can't keep it out, but we can do what we can to, you know, purify our water, eliminate things that are not really good in our environment, whether it's, you know, cleaners. Actually, this is the short version. I have an extended version down below, so I'll keep moving on. But finding management tools for anxiousness, minimizing medications, lowering alcohol consumption, eating liver-loving foods, and then to cleanse with herbs and natural tools to help flush out and reboot our systems. So now we'll go through each of these bullet points one by one. So reducing toxic exposure. This is actually, I think, the fun part because yes, we can do it with our food. We can try to, you know, eat cleaner foods, try to avoid non-organic options, try to grow our own, try to shop locally with people who are using good practices. That's really huge. What we eat, we are what we eat, and what we eat is the first step that we can take. And I do want to clarify too that, you know, I don't expect you all to go through this and then leave and tomorrow do all of this, right? I hope that you pick 2 or 3 things that you can either you're already doing and 2 things that you can add, 2 or 3 things you can add if you're not doing any of these things. And really just, it's a snowball effect, right? You can't overnight fix everything. But if you don't start somewhere, you're not going to start to see that progress. And so one small thing can have a very massive impact and then lead to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But anyway, the reason I think that this is fun is because obviously in my life, that has given way to a lot of essential oil use, which I think aromatherapy is super fun. And it's really been an exciting adventure for me to be able to kind of have these key ingredients in my home, like Castile soap and vinegar and witch hazel, some really basic ingredients, and then add in the essential oils I want and have the cleaners that I need for my home. You know, baking soda can't be overrated. It is an incredible cleaner. And you can replace a lot of the deadly chemicals that you might have under your sink or in your bathroom just by using baking soda, and make it fun by adding the fragrance of essential oils that are also going to be cleansers and detoxifiers. So hormone disruptors are a huge element. And because hormone function is largely reliant on our liver, the more that we can do to avoid the things that throw off that balance, the better we'll do. And fragrances are one of the main things, synthetic fragrances, and you'll see these on any label, it'll just say fragrance. And I actually think recently they're doing a lot of fun things where they're changing the negative names or the names that we've learned are not good to something new. So we have to learn these names all over again. I can't remember. There's one like, oh, what was the most recent one? I can't remember now. It was like, corn syrup is now like naturo sweet or something. I don't remember, but it's something that you have to keep on top of all of the time. But yeah, fragrances are huge and they are known. And if you look up fragrances and their impact on our hormones, it immediately will tell you and that those should be avoided. Preservatives, dyes, phthalates get a bad name, and they should, as well they should, and they should be avoided as much as possible. I will say I read a recent article though that said women in particular who had, I don't remember if it was adrenal fatigue specifically, or it might have been more severe. It might have been more like a cancer or something. But if they cut out phthalates from their life for 28 days, their system completely cleaned up. And that's all it took, was 28 days without any exposure to these things. And miraculously, their bodies were healed like it had essentially never happened, which I just think is just like, that's fabulous. Anyway, some other common culprits are cleaners. Obviously, we have a lot of toxic ingredients and chemicals in our cleaners. Personal care, we want to do an overhaul on our personal care and our makeup. You know, a lot of times there's ingredients that sound simple, like mineral oil, sounds like no big deal, right? But that is a petroleum product that is massively impacting our hormones. Air fresheners, new furniture, even new cars, that new car smell, unfortunately, is just not great. And so what we want to do is, obviously, we're going to eventually have to buy a car. So what do? we can actually go in with some products that break down the chemicals and clean the air. And lemon is a really good example of lemon essential oil. Make a quick spray, spritz it on the upholstery, and it helps break those things down. Now, of course, swapping out the products that are not good for us for products that are equally as cleansing but don't come with any of the bad guys are really good examples. And I've just put some of those below. Of course, we have great cleaning line through doTERRA. We have diffusers through doTERRA, which I love. Diffusers just make the room feel better. They put everybody in a better mood, without chemicals, without the things that are actually causing headaches. In fact, they're beneficial for us. And they do kill germs and they break down chemicals in the air. So this is a purification technique instead of adding fragrances that cause major problems. Of course, we have great skincare that is all plant-based, 100% natural. Toothpaste, so fluoride is a really good example of something that is detrimental to our body systems. And then in our deodorants that they're full of, oh shoot, why am I forgetting what's in? Oh, aluminum is the main ingredient in most antiperspirants. And sure, it keeps you from perspiring, but don't you think our bodies are designed to perspire? So it's really something we don't want to do, right? We do not want to clog our pores with aluminum. And so finding natural alternatives is really critical if we want to support our liver and how it functions. All right, management tools for anxiety. So I made a list here. Eliminating anxiety as much as we can. So turning off the news, really reeling that in. I know it can feel like this day and age, if we just watch the next thing, we'll probably understand how this all could be happening. How the world is falling apart is just one YouTube video away, right? But if we can turn that off and if we can set parameters specifically around our routines that we every day are going to keep, and it's not just one day we do better, but every day we do. For example, for me, one thing that works really well is I have a rule about turning my phone on before noon because I'm working with my kids during that time. And so then after that, you know, I'm actually getting to the point now where I'm going to take all of the apps off my phone because it's just not, it's hard. I'm addicted. I am just like everybody else, I think. And it's somewhat embarrassing how much I'm addicted. And I need to get rid of it because it doesn't do anything good for me. So turning off the news, having really good sleep habits around this is important too. So no news for me past 9 p.m., no social media past 9 p.m. I try to just turn my phone off altogether around that time. You know, everyone is going to work a little bit differently, but having parameters and setting up a routine for yourself is a really, really great way to kind of keep this anxiety from even coming in and taking back some control. Filtering out social media, setting time limits on those every day. Having decompressing time, whether this looks like meditation or prayer, or you're going to go for a walk outside, you're going to sit on your deck and do a puzzle. I don't know what that looks like for you, but it can be your own thing. You know, for me, I really like to do crossword puzzles, and it's very easy for me to get lost in a crossword and forget anything bad ever happened. You know, maybe reading is something that you really want to do. Therapy, time with community is huge. I think another piece of our equation we're really lacking is this deep connection with community that you're with on a day-to-day basis. We are in a very fleeting time in society where a lot of our connections are on social media, and we have, you know, kind of brief interludes with people here, there, and everywhere. And the second we disagree, we're off in different camps and we don't have to interact again. But these tightly knit communities of the olden days where you couldn't just leave, you had to actually work it out. You had to figure it out. You had to plow fields together. You had to bake bread together. You had to do all of these things. There was this opportunity to have conversations and to work out your problems together. And, you know, now we have more modern, we have the therapy option, which is great, but these community bonds are really important too. And nurturing those, I think, it can't be underestimated. And then comes in herbs and plants. And I would say herbs and plants used to be a much more intrinsic part of our daily routine as well, right? This is like ancient lifestyle stuff that people just had at their disposal. You know, now we can bring that in the form of a diffuser and bringing the plants into the house. Shinrin-yoku is one of my absolute favorites. It calms me down almost immediately. I love it in the diffuser. I love just putting it on behind my ears. Balance is another great option. I call that my mom's timeout. When I don't really have time for a timeout, I just inhale deeply, and it makes me feel as if I did get a minute. Peace. Forgive. This one I think is specifically, it's on here because I think we live in a time where we need to forgive, right? Like we need to do that more than we ever have before. Forgiving people that they don't even know that we need to forgive them because they posted something on social media that really upset us or what have you. So I think it's really smart to pull out that forgive and inhale deeply and really focus on letting your heart just forgive everyone blanket. No, they don't need to ask for it, just give it, right? And that's a you healing thing, right? Because that anger that we mentioned being stuck in your liver is really not good for it, and it will cause problems. So we don't want to underrate that either. Steady is another go-to of mine. I love this roller ball, super simple. I can't remember. I think there's magnolia in there. I can't remember what else. I just love the blend. These are some herbal and oil supplements that you can take. Now, I think traditionally we would have had access and been eating a lot more of these things. And we'll talk about nutrition more in a little bit, but I think herbs come in here. They maybe weren't like, you weren't getting them for your minerals or your vitamin D necessarily, but they were used as medicine, and we would get little doses of them here and there, walking through the garden and pulling something out and inhaling deeply or adding it to tea or whatever. It was a more accessible and part of our daily lives. And we would eat a lot more diversity. Now we're very limited in how much exposure we have to different plants because the grocery store only has what it has. Only has what's shelf stable, only has what they can grow in bulk, only has what the local, or not even the local, what's available to come without going bad in a short period of time. So anyway, we have other tools now that we can call on these supplements. Copaiba is a really good example. It triggers, it's cannabinoid-based chemistry, so it triggers those cannabinoid receptors, which are known to be calming, much in the same way that marijuana is known to trigger and kind of calm those specific receptors. Adaptive, if you haven't used Adaptive, it's an incredible blend. It's got, now I'm forgetting what's in it. Is it passion flower? I think it's passion flower. It's very calming. But I encourage you to grow passion flower too, because it's fun. And use that and make tea. But this is just really easy to take, simple, and it's right there at your fingertips. Serenity, if you're struggling with sleep, this can't be underrated either. It's got L-theanine in it, which is known to help mitigate those highs and lows, particularly when we're talking about like if you feel jittery from caffeine and whatnot. So love this. And if we're not sleeping effectively, our liver cannot function appropriately, because that's the time. And at night is when we renew and regenerate and when all of these things balance out. All right, minimizing medication. So I'm excited about this. If you don't have your phone handy, snag it. I am actually giving these free assessments out for personalized recommendations, and I would love to send you one. This is kind of a new thing, and I would really love to do this for you. So just scan that QR code, and it'll take you to a form, and I will send you my personalized recommendations for whatever your assessment turns up. So I'm really, really excited about this. I know a lot of us are on medications because we just are, and that's what we are on. And I want to help you find tools that might help you at least minimize those medications as much as possible. And of course, I'm going to do that hand in hand with you. I would never step in and be like, you have to take, blah, blah, blah. My goal is, again, to just really help guide you and help you become the detective there and figure this out. But here are some examples of alternatives. Digestin, instead of something that, like, I can't even remember what people take for, like, acid reflux, those things that people take, what are they called?
Omeprazole.
Yeah, something like that.
I take that.
Beta blockers or whatever. Yeah.
So do I.
Do you? Okay, so this is a really good alternative. Digestin is a really good alternative. And wild orange, and I know several people who've been able to slow down the need for those other acid reflux medications just by using these tools. So digestin, wild orange, the digest tabs are also incredible. So then moving on to allergy medication, that's one thing my family has been able to really benefit from. Drew used to have very severe allergies, and now he's able to deal with those just using our Tri-Ease blend. So there's an example of something we don't need to have anymore. And then, peppermint can't be underrated. It's so good for so many things. It's cooling. If somebody needs something for a fever, we turn to peppermint instead. For headaches, I had a son came in yesterday, he said, my head's hurting. We just put it over the forehead and he went to bed and he was fine. It was late. He was just tired, really. But It helps ease that pain that he was feeling so he could go to sleep. Deep Blue Complex. So this is an herbal, it's 100% herbal, and it is designed to help with inflammation. And it works really, really well. A couple of months ago, Drew threw his back out, which he does from time to time, almost once a year at this point. So I'm milking the cow now. I've taken on all the chores he normally does, which is fine. But he would, I just don't know how to make this go away. And I'm like, well, what supplements have you taken? And shockingly, he's like, oh, I haven't taken any. And I'm just like, okay, well, go over to that drawer over there and take something. And I recommended Deep Blue. I recommended turmeric. I think he took 3 Deep Blue. And later he's like, do you think I could overdose on Deep Blue? And I was like, no, why? How many did you take? He's like, well, I took 4. I was like, that's fine. He's like, I don't have any pain. He's like, I'm kind of worried about it. I was like, well, that was the point, wasn't it? You know, so, and when you look at these ingredients, they're just food. I mean, we're not talking about something that's toxic, even though that's what we're used to, right? We're used to these things being dangerous, but they don't have to be. So anyway, we love this product, and we love what's in it. And you know, I love herbs, but I love that I don't have to make all my herbal concoctions. I make a lot of them. I love doing it. I make tinctures and I make teas and I make salves, and it's super fun and I love it. But I don't really want to sell them because I don't want to have a whole farm of that, you know, like I want to do what's for my family. And my goal with my career is to help you guys do the same. So if you want to grow a garden, then talk to me. We can talk about that too. But Deep Blue, the Deep Blue pain stick is incredible. And this is clinically proven to work on pain. So we're allowed to say this is a pain stick. So, you know, the other things, I'm just telling you my anecdotal stories. I can't say this addresses pain, but Deep Blue stick, I can tell you that. So that's really exciting. And we'll probably have that ability with more products as time goes on. But turmeric, our soft gels, or our dual chamber capsules are just an incredible form of turmeric, which has been used for thousands of years. For inflammation, and it's just an incredible tool. Okay, liver loving foods. So my list looks like this: more grass-fed organ meats. So traditionally we would have been eating kidneys, we would have been eating livers, we would have been eating the giblets, right? We would have been eating all the parts of these animals that now just get thrown away, essentially, or maybe thrown into dog food or whatever. We need to eat that more. And I'm working on it. I've discovered I love pate, so I'm working on how can I make my own pate. I don't know if you've ever tried it. You can tell me in the chat if you love it or not. Fewer seed oils. So this is something that's gaining a lot of traction right now. Seed oils are definitely a major problem when it comes to inflammation. And the major reason is because we're not getting fresh seed oil. There are some great seed oils out there. Sunflower seed oil actually can be phenomenal for us, but we get it when it's old. And there's no way to fix that. And a lot of the processes to create these seed oils are chemical. And so those chemical additions destroy and also then destroy us. So any nutritional value that seed oils potentially had when they were first pressed is gone by the time we get it. So I don't want to talk trash about plants. You know, I love sunflowers, and sunflower oil is amazing, but what we get is not anymore. And so we really want to avoid those as much as possible. And it's a really difficult thing to do, to try to find products, especially pre-made products. It means you end up spending a lot more time in your kitchen, which is good, but also difficult, right? So we're working with what we've got, and we do the best we can. And one of the things I hear pretty regularly is the 80-20 rule of really trying with the 80% of our processes, of our diet, of our lifestyle, to do the best we can. And with 20%, don't get so hung up that we're like stressed out every time we eat, right? That's not helpful either. Less sugar, less alcohol. Sugar is really difficult. We eat way too much of it. These sodas, you know, you see the pictures of how much sugar is in a Dunkin' Donuts coffee drink. And it's it's sinful. Like, I can't believe they're selling a product and telling you anyone should drink this, because it's so much sugar and our bodies are going haywire because of it. And especially our livers, which is responsible for balancing that all out, right? The stress that our livers go through is massive. So clean grass-fed proteins, there is emerging science. It's, you know, maybe not that emerging, but most people aren't aware of it. But some people will say, okay, so meat is actually bad for you. Grass-fed meat has the opposite effect on your diet, on your health, that regular meat has. Grass-fed, grass-finished meats actually level out All of the things that lead to things like heart disease, like it's the cholesterols, all of that, it levels all of that out. Whereas if you eat something that ate corn that wasn't meant to eat corn, for example, a cow, any cow that you get that's not grass-fed, grass-finished is finished on corn so that it will fatten up and have all of these extra fats in it. Why does it have all those extra fats in it? Because it's starting the process of dying. So what we're doing with the cows is, and I could go off on a tangent with this, and I'll try not to, but what we're doing with the cows is we're getting them into a place of unhealth before we then eat them. And so that's a really bad tradition that we need to undermine and start to, as consumers, take more control of that. Smart supplementation is huge. I used to be of the camp that, oh, I'll just eat all of the things and I'll just eat healthy, but it's just impossible. You know, I can't grow all my own food. I've tried, I'm doing what I can. But smart supplementation is really important and it helps me fill in all of those holes. Vitamin dense veggies and greens, really, really important. Finding those that are fresh, because if you pick a broccoli on Tuesday, by Thursday, it's like 95% depleted of all of the nutrient that it had when you picked it. And how old is the broccoli at the grocery store? I mean, heaven knows. And that's true of leafy greens as well. And that's something that everybody can grow. So I definitely encourage you to just get a little tray going of your greens. Even just microgreens, they pack a punch and are really easy if that's something that you're interested in supplementing. Of course, you can find somebody local who grows them and that too, and that's a great option. But just to give you some tools. I wanted to highlight a couple of products. One is the Zendocrine Detoxification Complex. What's in it and how it's so focused on our organs. I love this product. And you can see barberry root, milk thistle, burdock. These are the things that come up if you're into herbalism and you start looking, what's good for this? These are the things. And they're all in one place, which makes it so easy to take. The Lifelong Vitality Pack is specifically designed to fill in all the holes of our modern diet. And it's food-based, 100% food. So we're not talking about synthetics or, chalk or anything like that. It's 100% food. That means that we absorb it as if it was food. So it's like taking a handful of healthy food. You can scan this to get the full brochure if you want to get more of the ingredient list. The bullet point was too much to put on a slide, so I didn't do that. But we also have this greens product, which is really handy and has a ton of, I can't even remember, broccoli and things like that are just super easy to consume in this dehydrated pack. So if you're looking for an easy way to replenish those greens and support the liver and the kidneys, greens is a really great thing to add to your morning smoothie. You can drink it on its own. I drink it with protein powder. And it makes me feel 100% better. This is something I wanted to introduce you to. I'm really excited about this. So we have this foundational 90-day program that is specifically designed to renew the body and starting with the organs. It's a foundational protocol to really get everything lined up so that it's functioning as optimally as it can. So you can scan this and it will take you to the basic protocol. And then I actually have two other options if you want something more targeted. I'm working on two more, adapting them with more target specific. And in fact, if you fill out the assessment, I might send you one of these specific ones. But if you need to focus really on your sleep, or if you need to focus really on your thyroid and your hormones, I'm doing one for digestion and I'm doing one for pain and inflammation as well. So those are all going to be available to you. And if you are like, oh, I really want that one, Lacey, just reach out to me and let me know so that I can make sure you get it. The others are still in progress, so working on those. But other lymphatic support specifically. So moving stuff out is a huge piece of helping our liver, right? Keeping that lymph system moving is what we want to focus on a lot. We want to move out, we tend to get it, I don't know if you ever feel like sinus pressure or you get your lymph glands start to get swollen. And usually that's the first sign that you're going to get sick, right? You start to feel that. And then you're like a day later, you're like, oh no, I'm sick. So we really want to keep that stuff moving. When it gets stuck anywhere, then it leads to not good things. But this is a really great way to support our liver all the time and kidneys as well. Symphony of the Cells is this is the lymph protocol for Symphony of Cells. And Symphony of Cells there's a protocol for almost everything. And I love it. And we use it. And how it works is, one person lays down and they take off their shirt and they take off their shoes And another person just applies these oils to the back and to the feet. And this is the order. I actually adapted this just a little bit to increase a little bit more liver support. I added in endocrine oil, which I love. It's an incredible oil for the liver. And even if you can't do all of the Symphony of the Cells, like say you don't have somebody to do this on you, you could use these oils and just apply them over the liver area. And while I'm mentioning that, castor oil is incredibly good for the liver. And you can do castor oil packing, which you just heat up a cotton towel, cotton cloth, and you can apply the castor oil with the essential oils mixed in over this area and then hot pack it with the cotton, a hot cotton cloth, hot water. The big 6 lymphatic drainage are trigger points on your body that you tap to kind of get them moving. And that's something you can watch a whole little video. If you just Google the big 6, there's a guy, I can't remember his name, that's famous for this. And he has a short video on his website and on YouTube that shows you exactly those points and where to do them. And that's something that you can do in like 3 minutes after you take a shower or before you go to bed or after you wake up or whatever, and make it a part of your routine. And it just helps keep things flowing and moving. EFT is a tool that I use very frequently, and I'm not going to go into it really deeply, but if you've never explored it, I encourage you to do so. We recorded a podcast. If you want to link with a lady who's an expert, there's lots of them out there though. So I'm not, we're not unique in that one way. EFT is just an incredible tool. And it just involves kind of tapping reflex points and talking yourself through some things. Usually when we're talking about healing and helping and aiding our liver and organs, emotional focus is really what this is. Emotional freedom technique is what that means, EFT. And so tapping specifically around anger, around things that you need to forgive is huge. And this is just a natural, like easy tool that you can use. And I want to make sure everyone has as many tools as they can get their hands on. All right, so now that's really it. In terms of how much I wanted to share with you, I feel like that's a lot of information, right? Hopefully you got several different things that you can use from this. But I did want to go into how you get these products if you don't have them already. And if you do already have access to doTERRA account, how you can get them the best. So first of all, I'm participating in a program that gives me the opportunity to give people extra free products. So if you do not have a doTERRA account already, a doTERRA wholesale account, you can order all of this at 25% off. I have my referral code in here. You can use that and you'll get the 25% off automatically. Normally it's a $35 fee for that to get access. But you'll also, with any 100 PV order, that's anything. You can pick and choose from this list. You can do the protocol, the 90-day renewal program. If you do a 100 PV order, you get a free balance. If you do a 150 PV order, you'd get the balance plus a diffuser, or there's 2 other choices with that a gift. And then lastly, you would get an adaptive in addition to these other 2 if you do an order of 200 PV or more. And all you have to do is add this code, this DC24N9CTMY. So even if you're not going to place the order with me, which of course I would love you to, but I know there's other people on this call who have referral links to share. They can share their referral link with you and you can still use this code. Just reach out to me if you have any questions about that. But this is a really great opportunity to kind of jump in. And these are the member perks. So if you're already a member, I want to remind you, you get 25% off all your purchases. You get 10 to 30% back on your custom subscription program, which we call the loyalty rewards program. And that means every month you can change what's in there. But as long as you order something every month through this program, then you're going to build a point reservoir that you get to spend on the products of your choice. And you'll have access to our free product of the month with any qualifying order. So 25% off. We do have a money back guarantee too. If you order the products and you're not really excited about it, you can reach out to doTERRA and you can get your money back. I see a hand raised and some questions. I'll be there in a second. There are no minimums or requirements though. I just want to make sure you're aware. If you decide at any time that you don't want to continue with a subscription at all, and you don't have to use a subscription to order with your 25% off. So that's just a bonus option. And then of course, accruing your points is a bonus. But if you decide to get started today, there's some additional, you'll get 20-point credit on 2 future orders, access to a couple more of my workshops, which the blending masterclass and managing anxiety workshops. But if you are an existing member, I hope that you're encouraged by all of this to try some things that might be really beneficial for you. And also maybe jump in on the renewal program. We have a renewal group going, and we're trying to just support one another through that, but learn from one another as well. There's so much more to continue learning. And I'm just really excited. I feel like I've just scratched the surface of something that I'm going to spend a lot more time on from here on out. But this, just so you know, is the first phase of that renewal program. You can see these is the first month you would want to do these. And I actually have added in the MetaPower Recharge is my personal recommendation. The rest of the phase one was designed by Dr. Watts, who's an expert in foundational wellness and a hormone and thyroid doctor. So the majority of this is just the 1, 2, and 3, 4 products here. But the Recharge has made such a massive impact in my overall health that I can't stop recommending it. Okay, I'm going to turn off the screen share for now and answer questions that I see and hands up kind of thing. So Elizabeth, if you want to unmute and ask your question, please do.
I started your health survey.
Okay.
On my phone. I left the room. I came back. Now it's no longer on my phone.
Okay.
it just totally disappeared.
Oh gosh. Okay, let me send you. I think I have the link, Candy. Let me grab it and I'll put it in the chat. Maybe. We'll see how fast my computer moves.
Because I had scanned the QR code and got started and then.
Okay, well, hopefully you can just start it over. If you didn't put in your information, then it didn't even know who you were yet. So, I got the link. Now I'm just going to put it in the chat. So try again, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Yay. All right. So questions. What are the best oils to use cooking and baking? Oh, that's a good question, Garrett. Thanks for asking that. So when it comes to using oils in cooking and baking, my #1 favorite is butter. Tallow. Also grass-fed tallow is amazing and really, really, once you start using it, you're like, oh, this is why my grandmother used this, because it tastes amazing. And then olive oil. We use a lot of olive oil. It can be kind of tricky. You're going to want to maybe look into a little bit. So there's a lot of just, like is our food industry at large, there's a lot of kind of shadiness in the olive oil industry. So you want to be a little bit careful about where you're shopping. I tend to go for the California olive oil as much as I can. The organic olive oil at Costco actually tested really well. So I felt pretty good about getting that. But yeah, I was working on the survey. Oh, Elizabeth, I got you. Tanya wants okay, I gotcha. I use olive oil and coconut. Oh, coconut oil. Yeah, another really great one. Tallow and lard are great. There you go. Very good. Avocado oil. Avocado oil is pretty good. So some of the oils, avocado seed oil, some of the oils, you really just want to see like what temperature they're good to work at because it makes a difference. So coconut oil actually burns really at a low temperature. And you don't want to eat burnt oil. The composition of the oil changes when it's cooked. And so sometimes it's more about what you're doing, how you're using it, than it is about what oil you're using. And this could be a whole nother class. In fact, I've taught this class in person. Maybe I should schedule an online version. But yeah, the mitigating and the understanding and the like weeding through oils is a whole, it's a whole thing. Saturated oils, that is. Of course, the essential oils are totally different. Require the same amount of understanding, but in a different marketplace. But anyway, okay. Well, you all were amazing for showing up tonight. I hope that this was really actually helpful for you. I had a lot of fun putting this together, and I hope the visual aids made it even better. But yeah, I'm here and I'm available for questions. I'm going to stop recording right now, just because a lot of people have asked for the recording.